March is right around the corner, so what better time to yap about some of the storylines that have developed over the course of the women's hoop season than now? What is up? And welcome back to Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers. As always, I am your host, Brandon Silvers. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Also, with all the great women's hoops action going on, you're going to want to watch it. So head on over to theshownotes.beehive.com and subscribe to my weekly Sports Watch Guide newsletter. Every Thursday morning, you will get a schedule of the most entertaining games going on that week, along with some stats, facts, and stories to prove why that's the case. I cover all sports over there. It's awesome. Check it out. All right, couple of weeks left in the regular season, and I just want to get my thoughts out on some of the top teams and some of the storylines that have developed around their seasons. Let's start with last year's national champions, the UConn Huskies. Can they be beaten? So far, no. They haven't lost a game in over a full calendar year now. And if you're new here, this is the UConn experience from like 2000 to 2016. Paige Beckers is gone. That's all right. Sarah Strong is here. It was only a matter of time before she became the best player in college basketball, and we might already be there. 19 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, and a block and a half per game on ridiculous efficiency. She's fractions of a percent away from being a 60, 40, 90 player. Azzi Fudd has been awesome too. Last year's run to most outstanding player in the tournament, you could see the confidence was starting to come back, and it's only continued to grow this season. Not necessarily confidence in her game, but confidence in her body to stay healthy and let her play her game. She'd be the best player on like 97% of the other teams in the country. When she misses a 3, it feels like a notable event. She's averaging a career high 18 points a game and hitting like 47% of her threes. And this has been the recipe for success for Gino all these years. 2 star players and a bunch of former McDonald's All-Americans he's convinced to play the roles the Huskies need them to play to support those stars. The only real hole I see is post depth. If Strong or Wisconsin transfer Sarah Williams gets into foul trouble, I'm not sure who Gino trusts, but they almost never get into foul trouble, and UConn can run any opposing big who may give them trouble off the court. So whatever. That's not how you're going to get them. So what do? And they're not going to beat themselves either. This is a team that wins not only because they have more talent than everyone else, but they also execute better than everyone else. Now, I don't think they're unbeatable in the way that some of those past UConn teams felt. I think the trick here is to fight fire with fire. We have very little evidence to work with. Their closest game was a 3-point win over Michigan early in the season, and that's just one of 3 games that they've won by a margin less than 20 points. But in that Michigan game, or whenever they've had a brief stretch in another game where they were outplayed, it's because their opponent was going nuts from 3. You have to outshoot them from 3 to have a prayer, which is hard because they lead the nation in 3-point shooting. Even then, it's an uphill battle, but that's the way. So do I think they'll lose a game this season? I'm going to have to see it to believe it, but they are beatable. They are the clear number 1 overall seed. I expect it to remain that way. Another team that would be a number 1 seed if the tournament started today is the UCLA Bruins. They've only lost to Texas this season, and yet we don't really hear about them in terms of being a national title contender. On paper, they have all the ingredients, a ton of experience. Their 7-player rotation has all played in 120 plus games. Lauren Betts is one of the best players in the country. Kiki Rice is having her most productive, most efficient season by far. Gabby Jaquez is a dog. Transfers Gianna Neepkins and Charlize Ledger-Walker were the go-to players on their previous teams, but have slid into their roles here well. So where's all the hype? Well, with this team having been around so long, we've gotten very familiar with them, and as a result, very familiar with their flaws. The biggest issue with them over the past couple of seasons is a lack of toughness. 2024 Pac-12 tournament, rest in peace to the Pac-12. Southern Cal out-toughed them. Same thing when they lost to LSU in the NCAA tournament that season. Last year against UConn in the Final Four, you don't get blown out the way they did unless you get out-toughed. And yeah, UConn was making teams look silly, including South Carolina in the national championship game, but UCLA folded in like 5 minutes. That Texas loss this season, as good as Texas is, are they more talented than UCLA? No, but they are tougher. Now, there were some good takeaways from that Texas game. They got punched in the mouth and they were down 1 million at halftime, which can't happen, but they did come back and make it a game at the end, even after losing bets. So there's been growth. I think if that happens last year, that's a 30-point loss instead of 11. The question is, has there been enough growth? And we're going to have to wait and see. The other concern I have for them is coaching. Corey Close is a good coach. She's been great for this program. However, I would place her a tier or two below some of these other top 15 coaches. Sometimes the game plan just ain't it. Sometimes the in-game adjustments come too late or not at all. As talented as UCLA is, what happens when they face a team that is as talented as they are or more talented? Hell, a team that's in the ballpark talent-wise. This is when coaching really matters, and we haven't seen the level of coaching needed from Corey yet to believe in him. Speaking of coaches in that tier 1 level, the South Carolina Gamecocks are the team that I watch the most. Haven't made it to a game this year, unfortunately, because people will not get their measles vaccines, and I've got a baby to keep healthy. But if they're on TV, I'm watching. And this is a different Gamecock team than we're used to seeing in recent history. At least they're still deeper than the average team, but there's more of a drop-off when Don decides to turn to the bench. For a couple of years there, it was like they were just rotating between two starting fives, but you can feel that the bench is the bench this year. Good enough to contend for a national title, of course, but the margin for error is that much slimmer. This is particularly noticeable when it comes to the bigs, which has been an issue these past 2 seasons. Sanaya Fagan came into her own last year, but this season, she's gone. Chloe Kitts is out for the season. Same thing for Ashlyn Watkins again. Adele Tack still developing. She actually reminds me a lot of Sanaya. Turnaby's just got here. She's going to be great, but she needs some more time. Dowda is much more comfortable outside of the paint. So it's been Medina Okot and Joyce Edwards carrying the load. As good of a season as Joyce is having, the flaws are starting to stand out and the fans are getting grumpier about them. Great scorer, 20 points a game, but sometimes gets tunnel vision and disrupts the offense looking for her own shot. Especially if she hasn't gotten a touch in a while, then you can kind of see her thinking, okay, it's my turn. This isn't uncommon when it comes to scorers, but it's incredibly disruptive to the offense. However, the bigger issues are defensively and rebounding. There's not an aspect of defense where I would say that she is quote unquote good yet. I think there's been improvements, but there's still a ways to go, both as a one-on-one post defender and in the pick and roll. The lack of rebounding is so confusing based on her size and athleticism that you have to chalk it up almost entirely to a lack of effort. That's her biggest crime to me because effort should be non-negotiable. But you watch her against LSU, she's just standing there flat-footed ball watching, and that's how a player with her size and athleticism and talent ends up with 1 rebound. She is 6'3", averaging 6 boards a game in 30 minutes of playing time. That's got to be 8 or 10 rebounds a game, even playing beside Okot, who is pulling down 10 rebounds a game. Now, she's just a sophomore and still a great player, and she generally follows up a bad game with a good one, but it's time to start cleaning those things up as we get closer to March because you don't get second chances in the tournament. She wasn't effective in the tournament last year, but they were able to work around it because of everyone else. But she's the number 1 option this year, and it's going to be hard to make it to a 6th straight Final Four if she plays like that again. Luckily, she has to look no further than her own locker room to see a player who went through something similar in terms of fan noise and overcame it. Raven Johnson is still one of the more polarizing players in the country, but she's certainly quieted any Gamecock fan noise. Almost the opposite of Joyce, defense and playmaking has always been there for Raven. She's not the flashiest player, but she does her job. It feels like she's near every loose ball, and most importantly, she wins games. For her, scoring has been the issue, especially shooting. She's not only more aggressive this season and looking for her shot more often, but her efficiency numbers are up significantly across the board. Her previous 3 seasons, she shot 39% from the field, 30% from 3, and 64% from the free throw line. This year, she's just about 50% from the field, 36% from 3, and an amazing 84% from the free throw line and averaging a career best 10 points a game. That's an improvement that's both fantastic and necessary, where Joyce can be a little too aggressive looking for her own shot. Everyone else can be too passive, and that's a problem too. Raven is the tone setter, so it's really important that she's at a spot where she's like, well, someone has to score and starts attacking. And this team still has a lot of talent, so I get wanting to get everyone involved. But when Raven, Tessa Johnson, and Tanaya Latson in particular are playing confidently, it opens things up for everyone. This is a team that has all the pieces, especially if they get some of this stuff cleaned up. And that's something they always seem to do headed into March. That's what having Dawn Staley as a coach does. She's been great, built this program into a powerhouse, and these last 2 seasons might be her best coaching job yet. All right, I've got some LSU takes to get off my chest. I just watched them bounce back from losing to South Carolina by beating Ole Miss on the road. Real quick, Ole Miss, worst fourth quarter offensive performance I've ever seen by a ranked team. That's been the Achilles heel of the Coach Yo era, but they are much improved this season. However, that was a huge setback. 0 for 17 in the fourth quarter. Credit to LSU's defense, but no way in hell you should go 0 for 17 under any circumstances. They couldn't generate a single good look and started throwing up prayers, and God said no. All right, back to LSU. First of all, this team is sickening. It's not just that they like to play the villain. I don't mind that generally. It's that they want to pick and choose when they are the villain. You can't do that. You're either Batman or the Joker. You can't be both. On the court, the trash talk and celebrations have exceeded competitiveness and gotten into corny territory. They remind me of this account on TikTok, Gremlins University or something stupid. And it's just this AAU team that joins tournaments strictly to troll on the court. They don't care about playing basketball. They just want to act ridiculous and get terrible celebrations off. That's what LSU looks like to me when they, as an alleged national championship contender, playing a non-conference schedule against cosmetology schools and church league teams, get out there up 73 points, firing fake AKs at some girl who is majoring in choir. Just get a grip. Now, to their credit, I guess, they do maintain that energy against actual competition when they are winning. But when they lose, they start playing the victim or trying to shift the narrative. And it's not just the players or Kim, but now the parents. You've got Roland Martin and BET News and all these places talking about Flage's mom's rant against South Carolina after the Gamecocks beat LSU for like the 8 millionth time in a row. And the rant also kind of throws her teammates under the bus too. Again, get a grip. Also, we're seeing too much of these sports parents in general now. I liked it much better when it was the occasional in-game interview, and that's all I knew about these parents. I don't need these momager rants or the Paldo twins' dad trying to tell us it wasn't his daughter's fault Tennessee lost, even though they went 0 for 10, or Aaliyah Chavez's dad tweeting, pretending to be her. You live your life, let your kids live out their dreams. But Kim Mulkey loves it this way. She likes the chaos and the controversy because it allows her to do her us against the world shtick. And look, sometimes it works. I mean, LSU is probably a 2 seed this year, and Kim is a 4-time national champion. Coaching identities are on a spectrum, and Kim's is further on the motivational leader side of things than it is on the X's and O's side. That's not to say that she doesn't know the game. She does, but her teams play more off of emotion than execution. That works great when things are going good. I think that's a big reason why they look so great at home when they've got that crowd behind them. But you see the issues with this crop up when they're on the road or when games get tight. When your emotions are controlling you, you're more focused on what you're feeling, i.e. pressure, when you're at the free throw line with a chance to take the lead against a team you haven't beaten since Obama was in office. Or look at the play they drew up for Flage to take a 3 to tie it at the end of that South Carolina game. It was a great play call. It got her open. But did she execute it well? Not to the level you see a Dawn or Gino coach player do it. She kind of let her path drift, so she caught it 30 feet from the basket. That's not the kind of shooter that Flage is. I can't imagine that's where the play was supposed to take her. When you are more focused on executing, you see more intentionality and precision with your movements. If she's a little more precise and takes it closer to the three-point line, she probably hits the shot. And this isn't a Flage specific issue. Mom aside, I think she's a great player and hopefully has a nice NBA career ahead of her. This is just an LSU thing. And to me, it's why the Malaysia transfer made sense and didn't make sense at the same time. The freewheeling playing style, getting out in transition, that's right up Lay's alley. When it's working, it's beautiful. She was incredible in that Ole Miss game. But she has so many bad habits in her game, and LSU is not the place to get rid of those. In that South Carolina game, she got a couple of on-ball deflections against Raven Johnson. Good. She's averaging a career high in steals. Except she gets those steals because she's always hunting steals. When Raven got the timing of it down, she started blowing by her as soon as she would reach. It's like a defensive back always going for interceptions. Yeah, you look great when you get your one, but you also gave up 4 touchdowns. Or lays layups, contested or not, she's going to go in. She's going to use her right hand only. It's going to be a scoop shot. That's why she misses so many layups. These are things that seem little, but are important and need to be cleaned up. But if it didn't happen under Dawn, then it's probably not going to happen under Kim either. And I think ultimately, this lean towards the emotional versus the execution is going to trip them up this season. Speaking of Kim's coaching in the SEC, Tennessee, you have a problem. They play Oklahoma, LSU, and Vandy to close out the season. Do you believe in them to win any of those games? They've dropped 6 of their last 8, and I know those fans are ready to get Kim Caldwell out of there, and it's only year 2. Hindsight's 2020, but that was a bit of a weird hire. Kind of gimmicky offensive system that's fun to watch when it's working, but seems more appropriate for a team that's trying to take down bigger, more talented teams than a program like what Tennessee has been and should be. It worked for her only year at Marshall, but at the very least, you probably want to see how it goes after there's a couple of years of tape at that level for other teams to try to game plan against it. Does it stand up to the scout? An even bigger issue than the losses is how she's handled the losses, which is to say poorly. Yes, your team quit on you. We saw that. But how much of that is your fault as the coach? And should you be saying it after every loss to the media? I know it's tough. There's a lot of pressure on her. This is a high profile job. But like I was telling the LSU, you got to get a grip. I didn't think they'd get rid of her this early, but I'm losing confidence in that thought. Things are starting to get really ugly. 2018, 2019 is the only time I can remember seeing them look like this. And that led to a coaching change. And even that stretch didn't have the blowouts that we're seeing here. All right, let's end with some rapid fire takes since I'm on dad duty. Okay, Texas looks like a number 1 seed again, but I'm keeping an eye on Rory Harmon. She had a similar rough stretch at the end of the regular season last year. And as good as Booker, Jordan Lee, Oldacre are, I think a bad Rory game hurts them more than any one of those players being off. That might just be my point guard bias speaking, but maybe I'm right. Also, I'm keeping an eye on Aaliyah Crump, freshman, top 5 recruit, missed a lot of time with a foot injury. She's working her way back. How much lost time could she make up for between now and the tournament? She looks really good at times. Michigan, they have a tough stretch to end the season, similar to Tennessee, but I believe in Michigan more. 3 of their 4 losses have been to top 5 teams, and those losses were all by 3 points. I think they're a good team and they could make a run, but I do wonder how much of their lack of size causes issues. Also, they are not the 3-point shooting team they appeared to be in that UConn game. Vandy, Michaela Blakes is right there with Sarah Strong for National Player of the Year. I can't believe she's just a sophomore. I also have Aubrey Galvin as SEC Freshman of the Year over Aaliyah Chavez. Okay, that will do it for now. My apologies to the ACC and Big 12 for leaving you out. We will talk soon. This has been another episode of Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers. Appreciate you watching, listening, rating, subscribing, reviewing, and sharing. Don't forget to subscribe to my blog, The Show Notes, over at theshownotes.beehive.com. Again, every Thursday, I send out a sports watch guide so you know which games to check out and why. And I do talk about the ACC and Big 12 there. Check it out for yourself. Hope you have a good week, and I will catch you later.